You'll remember President Trump postponed Speaker Nancy Pelosi's trip overseas via taxpayer-funded military aircraft, suggesting she fly commercial instead due to the shutdown. And our next guest agrees with the move, blasting these expensive trips on taxpayers' dime in a new op-ed. Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, is here to break down the cost. Tom, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You all looked at how much Speaker Pelosi has spent on air travel, military air travel, and you tracked it down to 2 years. She spent over $2 million in 2 years. Going where?
Well, back home to her district, we were providing military travel back home to her district. One of the concerns they had in the emails that we uncovered, this is now 10 years ago, was that she would set up these trips every weekend, and sometimes she canceled them, which put, obviously, the Air Force put them out, and the staff that were scrambling to put these planes together for her out. And then they had these congressional delegations abroad where Congress would bring their a lot, and you know, it was a big party in the sense that they would have booze on these planes. We have the receipts for the booze. The liquor list is longer than my arm, and it's an incredible waste of tax dollars, these CODELs or congressional delegations. And you know, when you look at the email, Steve, I think many Americans will be upset at the way the Air Force was being treated.
Right.
At one point, the Air Force said that you know, there weren't planes available, and the response back, well, we're going to have an unhappy speaker.
Look at that. We've got one of the emails from the Department of Defense. They say they have a history regarding the Speaker's office. They have a history of canceling many of their past requests. Any chance of politely querying them if they really intend to do all of these, or are they just picking every weekend? The average cost of one of these CODELs, a congressional delegation trip, is just under $250,000. And it's important for our lawmakers to go abroad and see what they're spending money on, Tom. But you're saying Nancy Pelosi is abusing her privilege.
Yeah, for the most part, most of these trips can be done on commercial planes. They don't need these military luxury jets that are put out there. You know, there's a whole fleet over at Andrews Air Force Base. Air Force One is famously known, but there are other planes that are pretty cushy. And at one point, one of them said, the military said to her, you know, we don't have the planes available. Is there any way they can fly commercial? And the response back from her office was, well, you know how that gets with the spouses. They loved the military jets at the time because the spouses could ride on them for free. Oh. They flew commercial. The spouses had to pay their own way. And Ms. Pelosi had her family on a lot of these trips.
Gotcha.
So you know, this is basic oversight. And members of Congress from both parties are happy to go on these congressional delegations, which are really junkets.
They do it all the time. All right, Tom Fitton, read his op-ed at foxnews.com. Tom, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Steve.
So some shocking new numbers tonight from Customs and Border Protection lay out what the agency is calling a, quote, urgent humanitarian and security crisis that is ongoing at our southern border. Take a look at some of these numbers. In the past 4 months, about the course of the year, a little before that, 9,000 illegals have been apprehended at the border. Most of them are coming in with families with children, which is a new trend that we're seeing, or an accelerated one to be sure. As a result of that, many who are coming through are in need of medical attention in much higher numbers than what we have seen in the past. The agency also reporting that it spent 20,000 man-hours, when they break it down, on taking these individuals to get medical care, to hospitals, etc. All right, also in this report, in one 2-day period alone, take a look at what they apprehended. Almost 1,000 pounds of drugs that were coming across the border from smugglers and traffickers. Remember that this is the issue that is at the heart of this whole shutdown. A shutdown that the Senate voted on twice today, but failed to bring to an end. And now, a new suggestion tonight from the president.
One of the ideas suggested is they open it, they pay a sort of a prorated down payment for the wall, which I think people will agree that you need. You need the wall. In fact, I see a lot of the Democrats are almost all of them are breaking and saying, look, walls are good, walls are good.
Except for Nancy Pelosi, who is saying absolutely not. But could there be some movement between Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer, who are still meeting tonight? Kellyanne Conway, counselor to President Trump. Kellyanne, thank you for being here. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you, Martha.
So what is the very latest? So what did you hear out of that meeting? And what is the president exactly talking about? How prorated would it be? Over what period of time?
Well, we are encouraged that the leaders, Mr. Schumer and Mr. McConnell, are still meeting into the night here, because that says that perhaps we can get that border security and also get the government reopened. Those are the dual goals here. This president is keeping a promise to the American people, his first and solemn duty to secure the southern border. He sees a humanitarian crisis on both sides of the border. Here we've got the drugs pouring through, the child smuggling, a lot of crime, but also, most importantly, we have at the other side of the border people taking this perilous journey. And of course, Mexico has, I think, started to implement some of the policies that allows people, particularly these unaccompanied minors and families who are coming up from the Northern Triangle countries, to stay in Mexico while their asylum claims are being processed on this side of the border.
He tagged bracelets on people and telling them, from what we're hearing, to head right to the United States. But I want to get your thoughts on the vote that we saw today. We saw two votes, and the vote that had no border wall funding actually got more Republican votes than the one that had border wall funding. That one pulled in Lamar Alexander, Isaacson, Murkowski, Collins, Gardner, and Romney. So it appears that on the Senate side, that they want to get this over with, and that they're willing to compromise on border wall funding to do so.
Well, but both votes, of course, neither achieve the 60 vote threshold that is necessary. And I was really struck by how many Republicans stuck together with the president's point of view and priorities here as well. But the president was, I was in there today in the Oval Office, so the president was speaking to a number of different Republican members and feels very buoyant that his negotiating team on Capitol Hill was up there today and trying to come up with the next phases of a deal. Remember, Martha, we're yet to get a counteroffer or even much of a response from the Democratic leadership to the proposal that the president put forth publicly on Saturday. It's now Thursday.
Yeah, no, that is very surprising. No, it doesn't.
They have to make a counteroffer. I mean, Nancy Pelosi saying no money for a wall. That's just not realistic.
Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell, I'm sorry to interrupt. If they're meeting, do you have any indication that Chuck Schumer, is in there with some kind of response, with a proposal from the Democratic side? And when the president talks about the possibility of a prorated wall payment, is that down to a very short period of time? Like if you have a continuing resolution over a number of weeks, is it, sort of broken down to, well, here's some wall money for a number of weeks even?
Well, on that regard, he is considering a number of different options and speaking with his legislative and legal teams tonight, actually, on that. But what I want to tell you about the funding and the two bills is this. The priorities remain the same. It is border security, but it's more than that. It's more than the barrier, which, of course, is a centerpiece. Really, the Democrats' wish list is in the president's proposal. DACA, TPS, humanitarian needs, detention beds, more immigration judges, 2,750 new personnel at the Border Patrol, more technology, $805 million for technology and detection methods to seize these drugs, $800 million for more humanitarian needs.
There's no doubt. We detailed that very clearly.
They? Come to the table, stay in town.
There's plenty in there that they should be glad about, and there's all kinds of evidence, at least up to this point, that they just don't want the president to be able to sign anything. So we'll see if that's changing.
The win is not for the president. The win is for the country. This country, we're a sovereign nation that needs borders.
Well,
and
it appears that politically they don't want the president to have a win here.
And Martha, I want to say something that hasn't got a lot of coverage. I work on the drug crisis here at the White House every single day for this president, for this nation. Every single Democrat last summer who voted in favor of every single Democrat who voted in favor of the drug legislation. They've already admitted that we have a huge opiate and drug problem in this country. And now when it comes to the 300 people dying from heroin overdoses a week in this country, 90% of it is coming over the southern border. Increasingly, fentanyl is, cocaine, certainly meth. Right. We've got to stop it.
Well, let me ask, I want to look at the polls with you, because it does appear that, according to the polls that we're seeing here at Fox and in other places, that the president is getting blamed for this. The approval number down 3 points from December to now. His disapproval number is up 2 points from December till now. And then the question, who is to blame for the shutdown? President Trump gets 51% in the Fox poll. Democrats only get 34%. Is that how does the president feel about that? Politically, does that feel difficult for him? And is that going to push him to maybe make a compromise he wouldn't have made prior to that?
the president is not looking at the polls. He's looking at the policies. He's looking at the crisis at the border. And he's not keeping a campaign promise so much as upholding his constitutional duty to keep us all safe. If he had to look at polls to make decisions, he'd be like a lot of other politicians.
Well, he just said yesterday he was so happy with his numbers with Hispanics, so he clearly follows the polls. We know that.
Right. There's no question. He's happy that people are getting the message, even though it's so difficult to get the message out on these issues. And also in the Fox polls, you've seen that the wall itself has gone up in appeal to many people. And it's not just the wall. It's a steel slat barrier. He has said, call it what you want, so long as we have it. It is the centerpiece of it. But, Martha, this president doesn't want to be blamed for not taking action on the border when so many presidents have promised, both Republicans and Democrats. Congress has failed to do its job for any number of years. The Republican-led Congress last year had promised him after he signed that omnibus, and he said, don't ever give me anything like that again. I won't sign it. They said, okay, but we'll do the wall for you. Where is it? And now the Democrats are in charge. But look, I think this is much like criminal justice reform, the opioid crisis, all these bipartisan measures that passed. This is a nonpartisan issue at our border, striving for bipartisan solutions. And I think there are a number of Democrats, including the 31 Democrats who won in 2018 in districts that President Trump carried in 2016. 22 of them are freshmen. I've got to imagine they're going back home and getting an earful. We didn't send you there to be in a shutdown. We sent you there to secure our community.
Before I let you go, I mean, you just said they're going back home, and I think that that's one thing that really infuriates a lot of people who are not getting paid right now.
They're rarely here. That's right. And by the way, the Congress,
for the weekend, and they'll be back when, on Tuesday?
That's right. They're fully funded. They have the longest weekend of any workers in their districts. Their members in Congress have the, and look, just stay in town. The president's saying, come to the table, stay in town, hash it out, get it done. And we're glad that leaders McConnell and Schumer are doing that right now tonight, and hopefully we'll come up with a resolution. The president is ready to sign it.
All right, we'll be here if there's news. Thank you very much, Kellyanne.
Thank you,
Good
Martha.
to see you tonight.
Bye-bye.